I have had the benefit on working at a very lot of peculiar installations um, in my life. And in that process, I guess you would say I've heard a lot of things, a lot of terms, a lot of names, um, projects, peoples, places, tasks, um, systems, components, you name it. I've heard a lot of stuff, and now I'm going to start crossing the T's and dotting the I's for everybody else. As I'm deciphering my experience, I am going to let you folks know what I'm coming across. Today's topic is going to be in regards to folks that feel that they have been impacted by anything on this list. Project Gondola Wish, Project Grill Flame, Project Center Lane, Project Scanate, Project Sunstreak. Those projects were almost interchangeable for a few decades and operating under different financing by either the Army, the CIA, or the Air Force. It was almost unable to tell who was actually funding it because the projects were changing names and titles and funding so often. But granted, I do have the paperwork. This is part of what I'm going to present to folks, is the history of these programs and how they were actually transacting their affairs, I guess you would say. There's a paper trail now, and a lot of this stuff was associated to activities on Long Island, and I will be bringing that around. But like I said, under the first names, Army, CIA, Air Force, it kept changing hands, going back and forth, and they just kept passing the ball around. Eventually, in the mid 90s, the project collapsed all of its departments basically under what appears to be the title Stargate, and it looks like it went to the DIA at that point. Now, I do not think that that is the end of the story. I'm still working to prove that aspect of it, but up until the 90s, from the 50s until the 90s, I have documented this activity. Statement of work. This was August 2nd, 1983. Again, I apologize. This is backwards, but I just want you to know that I am physically holding on to stuff that I have gotten a hold of. But I'll read it here for you. So this was subject is identification of selected personnel to Dr. Harold E. Putoff, SRI International, Menlo Park, California. Dear Dr. Putoff, reference your memorandum dated 11 May 1983. Subject, selection/training task. The attached draft statement of work is forwarded for your review. Request specific cost, expected length of each phase, and any recommended additions which may be necessary within the statement of work as drafted. To allow sufficient time to meet administrative requirement for funding in fiscal year 83, request an expeditious response. Sincerely, Frederick H. Atwater, Acting Project Manager. The statement of work starts out simply just basic. This is the stuff that I've been explaining, doesn't change from program to program. The verbiage regarding what project title, it's still the same thing. It's special requirements for human subjects. This is important because this is rare, and this was hard to find. This is a problem for anybody in these projects and anybody who contemporarily considers themselves a targeted individual. If you need help, you need to hear this, and you need to spread this around. Special requirements, 6.1, use of human subjects. The following definitions are used. 1, at risk means that the human subject may be exposed to the possibility of harm, physical, biological, psychological, sociological, or other. Line 10. The degree of risk to be taken will never exceed that which is justified by the benefit to the subject and or the humanitarian importance of the knowledge to be gained. Humanitarian. That's wild. Line 13 says human subjects will have no physical or mental conditions which will make participation more hazardous for them than it would be for normal healthy persons, unless such condition is a necessary prerequisite for the particular study involved. In any such case, the use of human subjects with such pre-existing conditions must have been specifically described and justified in the scope of the work to be performed under this contract. So, if we need you to have mental problems before we start with you, we can do that too. An instruction that the subject is free to revoke his consent and to discontinue participation at any time without prejudice to himself. That's why I got confused, because this is important and it's on the other paperwork as well. So they're basically saying that if you don't want to do this anymore, you can get out. Prior consent by a subject or his legally authorized representative shall be obtained in all cases. A legally authorized representative. In what capacity would somebody need a legally authorized representative to sign off on them being experimented on by the government? What if they weren't an adult? Interesting, because nothing in the paperwork says that these experiments on humans are limited to people 18 and above. What it actually says is that there's a lot of stuff that, if it's good for the cause, it's good for the cause. Psychoenergetics, PE, include various processes by which individuals psychically interact with objects, locations, and organisms. I understand that while there is no demonstrated risk of permanent or temporary injury, including physical, psychological, and or damage to participants' reputation, to project personnel, beyond risks to which they would ordinarily be exposed in their daily lives, I may temporarily choose not to participate in the project at specific times, or permanently discontinue participation without prejudicial effect. Termination. Ready for this, folks? Here's how you get out. Termination will be effected by notifying the Stargate manager, or in his absence, his designated acting Stargate manager. So that's all you got to do. Find your Stargate manager. Tell him you want out. Good luck. I further consent to participate in any non-intrusive biomonitoring activities that are necessary for project mission accomplishment. Any non-intrusive biomonitoring activities